The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Wednesday, the 4th day of October, 2023. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman. He's Roger Denbrook, and Maya Palakir will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Raj Weezy, happy Wednesday, good brother.
Buenos dias.
How are you, man?
I'm pretty good. This show is getting me out of bed, which is.
Is it a good thing?
Now listen, because I'm naturally a nocturnal creature. My circadian rhythm does not work with the sun. It does its own thing. So yeah. But you know what? It's a great day.
Okay.
How are you?
Tired. I mean, Raj, you saw it. We just did 800 episodes yesterday, completed 800, and I mean, I want to say at least 755 I've been a part of, you know. So,
and congratulations.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you for the 5 you've done.
You're welcome. I have contributed.
but Raj, honestly, man, you asked how I'm doing. I'm tired. I mean, 2 days in a row, I haven't gone for a jog. That's just not like me.
Ooh, for chicky.
I had to try to rest, and then you know what? I would have had an excuse anyway because it was raining, like pouring rain, and anyone who knows me knows your boy don't jog in the rain.
What? It's the best time.
The elements.
What?
Yeah.
You get to get a little workout in. You want nature, get a little cooling at the same time.
No, bro. Look, let me tell you something. Me and water, we operate in the shower together. We don't do the ocean. We don't do pools. And Mother Nature is just trying to cleanse herself of people like me. So I don't need to be out in the sea.
I don't think that's why it rains.
Oh, okay.
I mean Noah and the flood. I mean, that was a different situation. But I don't think you're one of those people. I think you would have been on the ark. Okay. I think Noah would have said, Jamal, get on the ark. Come on.
You think he would have invited me?
Yes, I think so. You would have set off next to the hippos and the hippo.
This guy. I would have got on. What's Sherry talking about? Jamal, you would be fine. The rain should be going over your head anyway. Another show. You know what? I'm not dealing with you rude people.
What's that stuff? The you can spray it on and your head gets a hydrophobic. So the water runs away from it. You can do that.
You know what, Raj? Let me go on Amazon, see if they got some of that stuff. Good morning to you, to Karen Simmons and Pam Coopador. And now she wants to say morning. Good morning to you, Sherry, and Marcia, Robin, Patrice, Bradshaw. And folks, greetings everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome LaVonne Johnson, and we're discussing depression. And I think Raj would agree. And I'm just going to share it. You know, we have a lot of conversations prior to coming on and off air. And I think I said to Maya and Raj, I think Bermuda is a very depressed country right now. I think we have a lot of people who don't even know they're depressed. We have people who are not honest with their feelings dealing with depression. Proud to say, being vulnerable and all, I got matched with a therapist yesterday. Yes. No, not that one. But, wow, I wasn't doing that. So hopefully that goes well. But anyway, I think You know, when you see people expressing themselves on social media, upset about the price of alcohol and things like education and price of groceries, those are the kind of things that add to depression. I think people always think it's linked to just death or loss of something like relationships and so on. So I'm not the expert. I'm not going to go into any detail, but I'm glad we have someone who specializes in this on today to discuss it. The Daily Play is music today, Raj.
All right, I might be okay.
Yeah, this this your space. I think this is all I'm going to say is anyone who remembers when Hot 107.5 launched in Bermuda. I wasn't even in Bermuda, but the answer is within that. All right.
Okay.
Don't forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Well, folks, let's get into the conversation. Raj sent me something yesterday, and it got me thinking and kind of connected it to Bermuda regarding depression in Sierra Leone. And he can go into detail about it. But the question of the morning is, how can you just heard me just kind of explain that Bermuda, we have a very depressed population. Again, something we probably don't know. And if we know, we won't admit as a collective. But how can Bermuda improve its approach to mental health? That's the question this morning. How can we improve Bermuda's approach to mental health? And Raj, you kind of gave this example yesterday. You want to share?
Yeah, so I was scrolling on Instagram and BBC Africa. They had this post on Sierra Leone. And what they've done is that they have created a mental health task force in order to address what they're framing as a mental health crisis. So Sierra Leone, in recent history, they had an Ebola outbreak. They've suffered from civil wars in that country, poverty across the country. And their government has gone, this has created a mental health crisis for our people. So they understand that the experience of emotion and of mental health is an individual matter. It's a collective and individual matter, right? And so they've gone, we cannot just leave this to people to figure out. This is a public health crisis for our people. Therefore, we need to put the resources in place to do it. Now, putting the resources in place to do it, that's where they're coming up a bit short. But they have this vision based on this particular understanding and respect of mental health that's experienced collectively. And obviously that got us both thinking about the Bermuda context. And I do think in a lot of ways, Bermuda collectively, we don't engage with our experience of mental health. And we've been lulled into this sense of false security because we are a quote unquote developed country, right? We have all the trinkets, we have our cars and our houses, and we have our private schools, and poverty isn't exactly common, right? It's here, and it's definitely here as somebody who has experienced being, well, in literal poverty. It is in this country. We don't engage with our experience of mental health. And it's because I don't think as individuals, we respect our own individual internal experience. We're told to run away from our emotions. We minimize the emotional experience. We make excuses for abuse in lots of situations. That's just one example, right? Like in the family context, the things that I hear, I'm just like, that's abuse. That's verbal abuse. That's emotional abuse. That's physical abuse. And on top of that, another example, how we treat our children. I think how we treat our children is a reflection of how we understand and treat ourselves internally, right? So I feel like we deny our children their intellectual and emotional selves. We minimize our children a lot. And we are seeing, and yesterday I think is a wonderful example, the Delwood situation at the candy store. Because we minimize their that's what happens, but we're doing it to ourselves. So yeah.
No, and thank you for that, Raj. I think there is a great connection, but what I admire about the government in Sierra Leone is they recognize it and they're making it a priority. I think we need to make mental health a priority in Bermuda. I'm in conversations regularly with people who say that homelessness is increasing in Bermuda and the homeless population is becoming younger. And they're saying, you walk through Paulaville Park and you see so many young people and people sleeping and sitting around. And really could be anyone on any given day right now, right? These are the kind of things that can lead to depression. These are the situations, as we see it growing. Do we care enough? Is it a big enough problem? How big does it have to be considered a serious problem? Audience, what are your thoughts? You mentioned resources just now, Rod. Do we have the resources to deal with a depressed population?
A depressed population? Probably not, to be honest. Probably not. I think we would have to put a lot more in place. As individuals, yes, right? There are plenty of services, plenty of experts in this country who want nothing to do than to assist you and support you. The DADO shoot, the one for professionals.
I don't know, Raj.
Okay, Miss Johnson clearly knows. I see her laughing. It's the no, it's the okay. Oh man, the employee is EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, saying
EAP. But go ahead.
You got the Employee Assistance Program, right? So if you're not doing well and mentally or emotionally in your profession and you're at work, your employer can go, hey, I see you're not doing okay. Go to EAP. It's a free service. Or you can go to your employer and say, hey, I need you to refer me to EAP. I've got a lot going on. You see it's reflecting in my work. And this is another thing, right? I see a lot of workplaces that are really becoming intentional about mental health. And it is a really beautiful thing to see. But I have heard and actually experienced myself a lot of horror stories about people who are legitimately depressed. They're in crisis. They're going through something difficult in their life. It's reflecting in their work. And I read up on it. The research shows there's a very, very clear quantitative link between work performance and depression. I mean, that's not rocket science, right? So what a responsible employer is going to do is put mechanisms in place to support their employees, because your employee is a human being. They're just not a robot, right? And so they're going to get you the help that you need. A decent employer,
Well,
employers aren't like that.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that, Raj, because we spoke about, for briefly, it wasn't a topic yesterday, about the 5-day work week and how the role of employers in all this, right? And you just said some employers are taking it more seriously, doing the thing. I think, and I will continue to say this, even as an entrepreneur who's responsible for ensuring people are paid. I think that the 5-day, 5-day work week, 8-hour a day work day is past time. It's past time. It's past its sell by day. I don't think people should be spending more time at work than with their families. I remember people saying, once you're done fighting conscription, what else you gonna be fighting for? Well, you see what you see us. And I think that's a fight I'd be willing to go on a hill for, not as an employee, but as an entrepreneur who understands the need. We spoke about it. Yes, I'm tired, you guys. Rajay will be doing this show without me very soon. We'll be taking turns. Maya, she needs a break. This is a lot. It's a lot. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not tired and I can give anymore. Like, our health is so important. At the end of the day, you've seen it. We've all seen it. We've all seen it, right? We've seen someone passes away today. Their obituary is not even in the paper yet, but that job is. So I'd encourage people. I had an incident yesterday where I learned a colleague on vacation. And they're on vacation because they were forced to take vacation over the black lady, right? Because they haven't been using their days. Let me be very clear and speak to every last one of you, to your hearts right now. If you have an older relative who is not taking their time off from work because they feel like if they're not at work, the work won't get done, that's not their problem. That's their employers. Don't make an employer make you feel like you're lazy and comes in or you can't get the work done. Make them feel like they need to stop being cheap and get additional help rather than putting yourself in that. Because an overworked person can lead to what are we talking about today? Depression. And we don't even recognize the correlation. Let's go to the comments, folks. The question of the morning again is, how can Bermuda improve its approach to mental health? Gary Moreno says it's a cultural issue, particularly among the Black community, where seeking mental health care is seen as almost taboo. That notwithstanding, there's a plethora of helping agencies, among them Bermuda Mental Health Foundation, MASS, and Dignity Health. I want to touch on this. Let's talk about it, because we have to, Raj. The Black community. No, I actually wrote an article for Carla Zul T-Hub back some years ago. And it was right when my mom was first diagnosed with cancer. And, you know, we had a love-hate relationship when he was Premier of Bermuda, but Dr. Ewart Brown was my mom's primary doctor when I was a child. And he recognized your boy had issues. And he said, no, he needs a therapist. He needs to see somebody, you know? And my mother wasn't ashamed at the time to get me the help that I needed. And really went through therapy right through young adulthood. I think it was extremely helpful. I mean, for a person who wasn't studious, didn't care about much in life, it really, I think it helped. It worked. And so those who knew that I was doing it, you know, they would think you're crazy, right? You know, that people who go to therapy are crazy. They're mentally this, they're mentally that. In fact, I think it's the opposite at this. Not calling anyone crazy. I think it's the people that don't seek the help that are probably the ones with the issues. So I take Gary Moreno's point. It's almost like we shame people for going to therapy. We laugh at them. I've had so many people over the last 2 years tell me that they go to therapy or they've gone to therapy. Now, for various different reasons. I'm going to tell all of my brothers, it's okay. It's okay. There are people who will talk to you and help you get through things.
Because we all need help.
We do.
That's the thing. I mean, as Black men, we're raised to drink it away, use sex to distract yourself, to athleticize it away. But you're not taught to talk about it. You're not taught to reflect on it. You're taught to self-soothe, right? And that turns into addiction, like or full-blown addiction, right? So what I see in Bermuda with people, and I love my people. I think my people are brilliant, right? And my people are on the precipice of greatness. But we're caught up in coping mechanisms in this country. We don't know, I don't think we really know how to have authentic conversations. I don't think we know how to be vulnerable. We have this very arrogant attitude towards finding our self-esteem, right? It's not about valuing yourself. It's about acting like you're great when you could be broken on the inside. And when you say to somebody, hey, I don't think you're doing okay. No, I'm great. I'm fine. What's wrong with you? You just need to act like you're fine. And like violence, I'll use my young Black men in particular. We have been subjected to an ideological standard for hundreds of years, right? That says you're not human, you are violent, and you are hypersexual, and you're really and you're physically really strong, but like you're not human. Your humanity isn't intact. I don't think we found our way out of that. What I think has happened is that we've taken that language and we've tried to empower ourselves with it, with this dialect of violence, right? So whenever I see a violent, aggressive Black man, I go, it's a child in a grown man's body who is upset. And that child just needs to be spoken to and held space for. But when you don't respect the internal experience, right, and it's been stigmatized and you are somehow less masculine, right? And we cling to that masculinity thing so hard. I don't give a flying, you can call me whatever the heck you want, right? Because if me connecting with my entire humanity, my entire mind and soul and body therein, right, If that makes me somehow feminine, then shoot, I'll be the most feminine thing out here, right? But if clinging to the masculine standard prevents you from being whole and healthy as a Black man, we have to start interrogating this masculinity thing and how we understand it and where we got it from, because it does impact our mental health as Black men, I think.
That's a word. Roger just gave a sermon, folks. Seriously, that was a sermon, and I'm saying that no lie. Like that will be clipped and shared, hopefully. Maya, putting it on Maya, but no, that's a word, Rod. Seriously, and we need to repeat that over and over and over. I think you're absolutely correct. Gary says it like that. I don't even. I can't say anything after that, so I'm going right to the comments. But yeah, Laverne Tucker says the Balco issue is making people depressed. The evidence echoed that says that Balco fiasco is cherry on top of Sunday that nobody wanted. Mark Arthurson Phillips says well, he's written comments. So the first half is, as a society, it is important that we take depression seriously. The effects of depression are causing so much havoc in our society. He goes on to say we need to have more heart-to-heart conversations that lead to healing and restoration. And that's what we're going to do today with LaVonne Johnson. Really trying to understand it, peel back the layers of it. This is a conversation. You know, I ask the audience every day, please share the link. Tag your friends in the and family and colleagues in the comments. But these conversations need to be had, because I tell you what, we all express ourselves in some way on social media. But something Maya said before we came on, that I hope she doesn't mind me saying, but none of us really show our whole lives on social media, which is true. She said we only show the good parts. And there are a lot of people's good parts are probably 5% or less of their life. I'm no expert. I'm just throwing that out there. I have no data to prove that, by the way. But I'm just saying, based on some folks I know, that 5% they share, is probably the only thing they would say is the good parts of their life. Let's go to these last couple comments and go to Maya. Karen Simmons says, Roger, you are spot on, so eloquent in how you express. Absolutely on, Karen. I mean, my boy. Charles H. Jefferson II says, we consciously or unconsciously make light of people's mental issues. How often do we jokingly say someone is crazy or they need to go to Maui? Saying this puts a stigma on those who do need help. Yeah, it does.
And you know that stigma, right? Like it's in the bit of reading I've done, because I got curious, okay, where did this stigma around mental health come from? Number one, white masculinity in particular. And their attitude, like how they framed mental health in the early days as a specifically woman's issue, right? So this whole patriarchal thing is just all up in mental health. So, and then the other thing, and I read this really cool thing, this research paper, I got it from the British Psychological Society, had won an award. And it was looking at mental health crises as spiritual emergence. Because again, I'm really interested in like pre-colonial indigenous understanding of things, where somebody was like a young adult having a mental health crisis, there was an elder in the village who understood that experience. And that elder, and it was always, they would never say you were crazy. They would go, oh, there's something, you have something powerful, and we have to help you learn how to use that. So it could have been they were a medium, they had some sort of a gift. Now I know in the modern world, we'll hear something like that and we go, that's ooky, that's weird. But I think that there is something in that pre-colonial wisdom where somebody might have a disposition towards something, and instead of shunning them from, the community goes, wait a second, we need to support you in that instead of shutting you out. Now, the whole spiritual emergence thing, we live in a very Christian country, so that may go over people's heads. So I'm not going to get into that conversation. But just the idea that a young adult, 13, 14 years old, I'm hearing voices, I want to hurt myself.
But we're getting in trouble. She gave us the signal. But
I missed the signal, sorry.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, that was it. No, that was it.
Okay, no problem. I'm sorry, folks. We do have a guest. We got to get to the news break. Let's bring Maya in. Raj, It's not me today, it's you. And I love that for you. I love this for this show. And I love that for Maya. Let's bring Maya.
Why didn't you tell me there was a signal?
She hasn't given it in a while. She's getting back to being grumpy to me. So there you go. No, hold up. You have to get in trouble. See, you're getting me in trouble now because we got
No, you didn't inform me about none of this.
in trouble. Look, here we go.
Morning, good morning.
It wasn't my fault.
Sorry, Maya, you see, you started a fight just now.
No, she didn't. Don't blame Maya. You didn't alert me to the.
Anyway, we got to do it. But Maya, real quickly, did you want to say anything on the mental health space?
I do want to share something that really brought my attention to depression in myself personally, and just as a Black woman when I was in university. I wish I could remember the professor's name. She was a doctor, but she said something once in class that had me leave and bawl in tears, because she talked about the Black stereotype for women, or even stigmas of being the strong Black woman, and the expectations of being a strong Black woman, and that you have to just keep suffering all the time, and people won't necessarily help you because they'll look at you and say, wow, you're so strong, and then you're stuck just in this loop of not asking for help because you should be strong enough to handle it, which is so detrimental, and it really breaks our spirit and does put us in a depression state that sometimes we don't even realize, because we're so used to having to be the so-called strong Black woman. So that got me. That got me a lot. And I remember just leaving and just bawling in tears, because all those years I've just been trying to be tough and make it to the next step, I can do this, I don't need any help, I can do this. And then you see your mother, she can do this all by herself, she can do it, she's been doing it all by herself. Oh, constantly in your household and your family growing up. And so just that shook me, and I didn't even realize that you know what, we really don't ask for help. And I've just been watching my mother, my grandma struggle, and then passing it down from generation to generation, and the community just telling me that I had to because I'm strong enough to.
And you know what? And audience, hear me when I say this, but I think as I was coming up a young adult in a space, and Raj, you would know this, you'd probably say, well, J&J have come a long way from that space. It was even, Teo was a bit more advanced, obviously, but we grew up in this space where you had to be this certain type of male, right? And over time, it's people like you all, the 30s and younger, your generation, that's really actually bringing about the change that needs to happen so that we can have these honest, open conversations like today. You still have some people, young Bermudians on Twitter, a boxer recently, oh, man, you guys don't need no counseling. You need to get in the gym and da-da-da. And I'm just like we're really saying it. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have said this, but maybe it's the boxing hitting in the head, but it's not. It's literally how we are raised to think exactly what Maya said. But I'm confident that with people like yourselves in spaces where you have some sort of influence, that we can change this narrative. And I'm putting it on you. Not as pressure, but to continue these conversations when these mics go on.
Why? Because I'm a strong Black woman? No, I'm joking. I was it was right there. I had to go for it.
That's low hanging fruit. Now that was appropriate. That was appropriate.
I don't like you. Yeah, what you got in news break? But no, real quick. I think this is it right here. This is it.
Yeah.
This sums it up.
Yeah.
And it goes to what Junior Birchall, he goes by Ajala Amadeli, once said about violence and children, and he said, we don't spank our children in the Black community, and I'm not quoting exactly, because of discipline. We do it because of what happened when we were enslaved. And he said, to save their children, they thought they had to beat them. Don't do that, because they would come out and basically harm the children. So they didn't want to harm them. And we carried it on. And there are still people today who think that violence towards children is a way of, the best way of discipline. I'm talking violence, folks. Think about the examples you get. Go get me a stick outside, and then you bring it back. That's actually sick behavior. And I'm speaking to a lot of people today who might be tuned in. That's sick behavior. Whether our parents did it or our grandparents did it, I'm going to say it clear. I love my family. Grandparent, great-grandfather, I was blessed to know him, right down to parents. But we have to admit that part of depression is that they got it wrong too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. No, we can go on forever, but we definitely got to bring our guests in to lead
Yes.
the direction of this conversation. But good morning, everyone. This is the Daily Hour Newsbreak brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Starting out the newsbreak this morning, do you guys recall the Misuse of Drugs Decriminalization of Cannabis Amendment Act? Remember that?
What happened to that?
Okay. So if you don't recall it, for those in the audience, it removed criminal sanctions in relation to the possession of cannabis where the amount is less than or equal to 7 grams. Then what came next was the Expungement Act, which made provisions for removing identical cannabis possession convictions from criminal records of those convicted for possessions up to 7 grams before the Decriminalization Act took effect. So remember this as you continue on the story that, sorry, decriminalization measures have never been done before in Bermuda until this act. And with that comes, little hiccups because, again, it's never been done before. So just to give you guys like a visual of what 7 grams looks like, I'm just going to put that up on the screen there. But as it stands to date, approximately 40 of the 51 applicants made on the Expungement Act, so that's around 82%, had not been able to be processed because the amount of cannabis which applicants were convicted was not explicitly stated on their criminal records.
Ugh.
Yeah, so obviously knowing this is important in making the determination of the orders to be made. Therefore, some regulations were actually put to uphold the, quote, spirit of the expungement policy. So let's hear a little bit from the Honorable Kathleen Simmons in the House of what has been changed in order to rectify the situation.
These regulations therefore provide that for expungement applications, the amount of cannabis for possession convictions, when not stated on the record, shall be taken to be less than or equal to 7 grams for purposes of making expungement orders under the Act. Mr. Speaker, in the course of addressing this issue, another important corresponding issue arose. As the law stood, it was subject to interpretation as to whether additional element fines related to the expungement possession convictions were also expunged. It stands to reason that they would be, as otherwise the fine would stand alone on the record in the absence of the conviction that it resulted from. This would in turn leave evidence of the conviction on the record, contrary to the spirit of the expungement policy.
All right. So basically, in basic terms, that means if the amount seized was never recorded in criminal records, along with other provisions that were not mentioned there in that audio, but the amount will be recorded as under 7 grams and it will be expunged. And then the other one that she mentioned was that if there was anything else listed in connection with the record, like let's say maybe a weed grinder was there, for example, and that was taken down, and that would also be taken out and be expunged as well.
Really want to say this because I sit here and I criticize the government, rightfully so, when they are not delivering on behalf of the people. I don't think this is rocket science. This was very easy if you were going towards decriminalization or legalization. This was only right. So this is not any grand thing that's out of there, but they've done it. They've done it, or they're moving towards doing it, and give credit where it's due. My next step, and this is where the pressure needs to be on the government, have that direct conversation with the U.S. consulate if for those same people who may not get to see their children graduate, take their child to Disney World if they want. I think that's the next step. And I know the U.S. may say, well, it was a crime when they did it. Have those conversations. The same way we can change legislation, we can have those conversations on a level with the United States consulate and see what we can do on that on behalf of the people of Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, next up in the news, Bermuda is Love is launching the Housing for All campaign to address the problem of homelessness in Bermuda. So they have a ton of events going on. I'm going to throw this graphic up here. A lot of it's happening throughout the month of October. Bermudas have been calling you to join them as they discuss the practical solutions, best practices, challenges, obstacles, and gaps in relation to the realization of the rights of housing for all. You can join any activities you want, and they're all free to attend. You don't need to sign up or anything. You just come through. They talk a lot about what homelessness in Bermuda even means, because it's not just the basic level of what you might think, just people like living on the streets or on the sidewalk, but it's, tons of people living in one house underneath one roof, not having decent, sufficient, standards of living. So I got to speak to Aaron Critchlow. He's the founder of Bermuda is Love, and he talked a little bit about what I was most interested in was the legal advice portion that they're having for persons who, need it, whether it be tenants or even homeowners. So here's a little bit about what they, are expecting to get from it, or what people can expect to get from the legal advice.
We're trying to advocate for the right to housing in order to ensure that, or make sure that everyone's rights are protected. landlords and tenants both, they need to be aware of what rights they have so that they're not basically exploiting each other. And as in Bermuda we know, housing is expensive and also legal fees are expensive. So we're trying to decrease the barrier that many people face in terms of getting appropriate advice to protect themselves and ultimately get what they deserve. So that might be, the landlord wanting to evict. How do they go out? What's the right process to evict someone? And then as a tenant, what are your rights to oppose that eviction? Or as well as what if the landlord's not doing something, not abiding by their covenants? What are they're trying to force you out by, I don't know, turning off the hot water or things like that? And then as a tenant, what rights do you have? And so just giving advice regarding any types of issues that landlords or tenants may have, as well as if you have type of mortgage dispute or property dispute between boundaries, land disputes, anything like that.
So yes, that's what people can, expect as that comes about.
I absolutely appreciate that brother and the entire organization. And I'm
they're doing some good work.
And I won't be long because we have our guests coming up. I appreciate them because everything about what they do seems genuine. Genuine. Pick the bones out of that.
Mm-hmm. And just a reminder, I'm just going to put it right back on the screen that legal advice clinic day will be on the 24th of October. So that one's going to be on the 24th. You can also find out more by going to Bermuda is Love on their Instagram page as well. Coming up next in the news, the Bermuda Olympic Association is pleased to announce the selection of the team of Bermuda for the upcoming Pan Am Games to be held in Santiago, Chile from October 20th to November 6th. Just throwing up the names there on the board. We got competitions putting in different realms of athletics, cycling, sailing, swimming, and triathlon. Regarding this team selection, the chief de mission, Julia Howley, says, our team is small, but our athletes have had to attain very difficult standards in order to qualify and compete at the games. There are Olympic points, Olympic time standards, and even Olympic spots at all the events our athletes have qualified for. They will do Bermuda proud on the world stage, and I will do everything as chief to ensure their journey to the games and the games is as smooth as possible, and they only have to focus on their competition. Now, as we still await what Bermuda's status is still with the World Anti-Doping Agency, hopefully this Friday in the House, we get an update on that because they have until October 13th to turn it around, or our athletes will be going to the Pan Am Games and not being able to raise that Bermuda flag.
You heard it, folks. A few more days.
Just a few more days. And lastly, in my news break this morning, we know that the by-election is actually tomorrow. And I did a long video about just like the do's and the don'ts, or like who's the candidate and what they are and what they expect to do. But here's a quick promo of it, and you can see the full thing on my channel as well. So October 5th is the upcoming by-election. Now, the only reason we're even having a by-election is because the former opposition leader, Cole Simons, retired after 25 years of service. This happened on August the 9th of 2023 and left the seat wide open for a new person to become an MP of that constituency. So we're going to get into who's running for the by-election, but first we're going to talk about the options that did not happen. So as of nomination day, which was September 21st, nobody ran as independent. Also, other parties like the FDM didn't put anyone up for nomination as well. And even though we haven't heard from this group since Trevor Lindsay did an interview with them on TNN, the All Women's Political Group didn't put anyone forward as well to hold that seat. The only parties that did nominate somebody was the government we currently have in power, which is the Progressive Labour Party, and the opposition, the One Bermuda Alliance. So here's what did happen. First, the One Bermuda Alliance announced their candidate as Ben Smith. You might know Ben Smith is widely recognized across the island as a national coach for swimming in Bermuda. He also did win his seat as an MP in 2017 for constituency C31, but then lost it in the 2020 election. In my interview with Ben Smith, he had a deep focus on sports, community, and education. Now, after Ben was announced, everyone was waiting for PLP to announce their candidate as well. Some people may have thought it was going to be the Minister Owen Darrell because he did run for that seat in the 2020 election, but lost. Since his loss, he has moved upward in the ranks from the potential being a constituency MP to now being appointed by the Premier as the Minister of Youth, Culture, and Sports on October 27th of 2022, days after the PLP internal election. However, a press release from the Progressive Labour Party told us it won't be Owen Darrell because they said, quote, "Rest assured our candidate will not be a recycled and disrespectful former MP, but rather an inspiring new face who represents the best of Bermuda." So we waited to hear the introduction of Misha Fubler. Now, Misha Fubler has always been pretty vocal on social platforms about government decisions, especially on his Twitter. He's also a member of the Social Justice Bermuda. And from my interview with Misha Fubler, he's pretty big on technology, on green initiatives, and also upgrading education. It's also important to note that this upcoming by-election will be the
Maya, that was excellent, and I watched it. I encourage anyone, go to Media Maya on Instagram, watch the entire thing. It's some great insight. FDM, the All Women. Did the All Women's Party have a name?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting. I'd encourage you, go check it out. Maya, when you get off, just share the link in the comments, or actually for your Instagram. But I encourage everyone to watch it. I know it's just a by-election, but it's not just a by-election. This can tell us a lot about what people are feeling in Bermuda and the direction of the country. So you got to run.
Yeah. Yes. And last up for the weather this morning, as we all may have heard, there is the small craft warning. So it's going to be the small craft warning is for tonight all the way through Friday night, as Tropical Storm Philippe might be approaching. We're still like up in the air trying to learn about that and see where that's going to be approaching, but there still is hurricane season, so be prepared. Looking like a sunny period today with a chance of a few passing showers as well, and we got a high of 84 degrees.
All right, real quickly before you do Days of the Year, Raj, just want to give a shout out, Bermuda cricket team, another victory. Kamal Levra, 2 runs off a century, so congrats to them. Keep pushing, fellas. We got you back. What you got for us, Raj?
Today is Taco Day.
Oh.
It is. It's Taco Wednesday today. It's also Vodka Day, but we're not, just saying, if that's what you do that, because it's Vodka Day. But mostly, it's Taco Day.
Raj, but can it be like fish tacos?
Of course.
But Taco Wednesday doesn't even sound right.
I am not responsible for the days.
I can do tacos every day, so.
What's your favorite taco, audience? Let us know. What's your favorite taco, Maya?
Fish tacos, obviously, but not the battered. Don't give me no batter. The grilled, a grilled.
What's your favorite taco, Raj?
Same.
Fish, okay. Yep. Anyone still eat beef? I'm a fish taco guy myself. Occasional shrimp, but fish taco. Maya, thank you so much. We'll see you later.
See you later.
All right, folks, do not go anywhere. In the meantime, let us know your favorite taco. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our guest for the day. Don't worry, we'll run a bit behind, but we will make up the time as long as she has nowhere to go right away. Stick with us.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level.
'70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dandytown Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Rajay Denbrook, I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. Please don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We've got LaVonne Johnson. We're talking about depression, the various layers of depression. And if you heard the discussion, a lot was said and a lot was shared. Please give her a warm TDH welcome. All right, calm down. She don't know you like that, folks. Sorry, they get excited sometimes. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Not everyone says that. They think that is, going to be a tough time and that Rajay is grumpy and going to rough him up. But don't worry about that.
Rajay is awesome. I'm listening to you. I'm like, good night. You can kind of take my place, maybe. You have a lot of wisdom. Honestly, you really spoke well. I'm very impressed.
It's quite refreshing, I'd say. But just for those who may not know, just tell the audience a bit about yourself, your background, what it is that you do.
Okay, so LaVonne, formerly Pearson, now Johnson. I am from Bermuda, born and raised in Warwick. Let's see, right now I am a marriage and family therapist. I am practicing in the States, but I am also doing some remote therapy with Bermudians. So yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've worked with people across the gamut, with children, with adults. A lot of different aspects that I appreciate being able to work with people across. So.
I say this respectfully, right? Whenever someone says they've been doing something for 20 years or something, and they're, as a Black person, I'm always like, but you look like you're in your 20s. Like, seriously, like, what, you start when you were 5? But no.
Actually, big facts. I did the same thing. I was like, wait, what? Math and the biology aren't doing
right.
Oh, that's funny. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I'm actually almost as old as you, Jamal. You're talking about those 30-year-olds.
Oh,
okay.
No. But let's get into the conversation. So, you obviously heard the conversation earlier about depression. We gave our opinions based on our experiences. Luckily, I had a mother who didn't care what people thought when it came to her children. She just wanted what was best for her children, especially not being an expert. But what would you say to the audience? People, we throw out the term depression. We discuss depression. As I said earlier, people tie it to loss most of the time, whether it's relationship or death. But how would you define clinical depression?
Okay. So clinical depression, so depression in and of itself is kind of like a wide umbrella underneath it. So it's not just, like you said, but actually grief in and of itself, that's kind of like a whole different extra separate topic as far as dealing with depression. It can go very deep and it can last very long. But as far as understanding depression in and of itself, there's about 5 out of 9 symptoms that you have to be able to fall under. And so this includes like fatigue and obviously sadness and crying, irritability, feelings of guilt, sleep disturbance. There's a whole bunch of different things, loss of interest. Now, you did mention a couple of things earlier as far as even seeing it show up in violence. I think Rajay might have mentioned that yeah, some people will be violent, but underneath that may be some levels of sadness and different things like that. But it's the multitude of things collectively that create that clinical depression label that people are kind of specifically looking for. Although, again, there's just a multitude of different ones. There's postpartum depression, seasonal affective disorder. I mean, all of these things fall under the umbrella of depression.
Indeed. And I'm glad you said that, because it's not this one thing like we think. There's so many things. But let's talk about symptoms, because earlier we spoke about people that go to therapy in our community. Some people say, oh, they're crazy, or they have issues. Yeah, we all have issues. Some people are just courageous enough to get help to deal with them, right? But what are some symptoms we should look for when it comes to depression? Some people say, I think it was the comedian actor Robin Williams, right? Always making people laugh and happy. And on the outside, he was depressed. Like, doesn't have a look. So what are some of the symptoms?
Well, again, some of the symptoms, they vary with individuals. And we can look at the symptoms of, again, persistent sadness. You may struggle with sleep disturbance. Oftentimes it's even how you think. Like, it's difficult to kind of think out of this negative way of processing it, specifically about yourself. It can be about the world around you as well, but oftentimes you internalize these thoughts. If you have these different things that you previously once enjoyed that you no longer want to do it anymore, let's say you used to read a lot, or even sex, just no longer wanting to do that when it was something you enjoyed. Aches and pains can also be a part of it. So those are some of the things, some of the symptoms that you can sometimes see. But I think it's very important that you as an individual look at yourself and say, okay, something's happening with me, something's changing. What is it? Why am I struggling possibly to talk about it? Do I have somebody to go to? So again, a lot of different aspects as far as the symptoms in and of themselves that you would want to be looking for.
I think I'm so happy you had brought up postpartum depression as an example. I read this really cool thing about in Japan. They have this tradition where, like, for the first 3 months after a child's born, the family swarms the mother because they understand how vulnerable she is for those 3 months. And I mean, when I read that, it just completely shifted my understanding of so many things about childbirth and how we handle it as a society and respecting women's experience. And they're very proactive about it. So I'm so happy you had brought up that point about postpartum depression and the symptoms of depression. I'll be very honest and open. I've been diagnosed with clinical depression twice in my life. And I know I've been depressed outside of those times as well. One of those times I took medication. The other time I didn't, because me and medication, we don't do well. But I mean, one of the symptoms you mentioned was just losing interest in everything. I remember when I was depressed, it just sucked the life out of me. Like, I had no enthusiasm for nothing. My self-esteem was non-existent. I had this horrible self-destructive internal monologue. And the thing that sort of got me to snap out or to just sort of be present enough was my kids, because I didn't want it to hurt them. Everybody else, I was like, yo, I'm just going to lay in my bed and just be whatever. But my babies, I was like, nah, I'm got to claw. I'm got to figure this out. But yeah, but what causes depression?
Okay, so that's a little bit more difficult. So the cause of depression, it's not like identifying the cause of, cancer or some other medical condition. The idea of depression, it falls under, again, this umbrella. So it can be biological. So it can be related somewhat to your genetics and things like that. It can be psychological. It can also be social, can be your environment that you're around, and even your spirituality. And so when I say your spirituality, it's kind of even how you look at yourself, kind of what you're talking about, some of that internal dialogue that you're saying to yourself. So those are some of the generalized causes, but it's not any one specifically. Like a lot of people, you even mentioned, Rajay, about, using medication. For some, medication is beneficial. The issue that comes up sometimes, though, is when it's not beneficial. And they're like, well, what's wrong with me? I've got to be really, really bad because this medicine didn't work well enough. And that's not true. It actually works for approximately 37% of people. And then there's also other things. So like, again, let's say a heart attack. If somebody has a heart attack and they're not normally just going to say, oh, just take this medicine and you'll be fine. And let's say you weigh, 500 pounds or whatever. They're going to say, work out, go and eat healthy, all these different aspects. So there are other things that you can do as far as finding ways to be able to deal and treat depression in and of itself.
So yeah, that was actually my next question. How is depression treated?
Okay. Yeah, there's a multitude of different ways. There, again, obviously medicine. You can use light therapy. You can do therapy in and of itself, which is obviously one of the more popular ways, although extremely stigmatized. You can change the way in which you eat, and which is, a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of times as far as dealing with the foods that you eat, depression can be caused also by inflammation. And so you have stress, which causes inflammation, which causes mood disturbances, and that cycle kind of continues. So changing the foods in which you eat, eating healthier foods high in vitamin B, fruits and vegetables, things along those lines, high in fiber. There's also, you can do sleep therapy, exercise. Jamal, you're talking about the guy who's talking about boxing. Is he right to say just go ahead and just box? Well, no, it's not just about boxing, but if that is a way that, hey, you're kind of getting some of your aggression out, that you are bringing these good positive hormones to your body that causes you to feel sometimes almost euphoric, like, hey, I'm really excited, and you just want to go and do life, then that is a good thing. To place something like that on somebody and say that is the only thing that you need to do, and anything else is, inconsequential, and you're weak if you don't do blah, 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 that is wrong. There's also, you can do things like gratitude therapy. I mean, there's lots of different things out there that you can do. The main thing that I would say is identify what works for you, and if you can, be willing to seek what works for you. Even if it's a self-help book, sometimes those things are beneficial. I wouldn't necessarily just get stuck on that, because that becomes sometimes more of a checklist of things to do. Like, oh, if I do this, I do this, I do this, I'll be better. And really just being able to be present with yourself, with somebody else, and to be able to identify, hey, these feelings that I'm going through, I can actually get through it. There is hope on the other side of this turbulent storm that I'm feeling inside of me. Being able to even believe that is a huge step for a person to be able to get through when they're dealing with depression.
Oh my goodness, thank you for that. And again, I'll share my experience for a second. So when I realized for the second time, medication just, again, I'm in that 60 whatever percent where the medication just didn't help. What I realized was that I had to stop doing it through my mind, because I'm an excellent thinker, but the thinking, I couldn't think my way or rationalize my way out of it. I had to do it through my body. I had to move. So I started to work out, and I started to weight train for the first time. And that was miraculous. Being outside in the sun was super important. Being in the ocean was super important. And it was things that I didn't think, if someone like, oh, go to nature, work out, da, 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 da. And to sort of find stability within this crazy thing. But also it was like releasing these lies that were stuck in my thinking. I had to do this really meditation was crazy important too, because it was like I had to learn how to let my mind go quiet. So when the thoughts come up, I can go, I got you. Okay, where did you come from? Where did this lie come from that's absolutely destroying my self-esteem right now? Like, what is this thing? What are some of the most common misconceptions with depression?
Some of the most common misconceptions that people often deal with is that if I am, or if I'm identified as being depressed, again, I'm weak. There's something wrong with me. Back in the day, it used to be identified as, somewhere morally there's an issue within you. A lot of people, and I'm a Christian. You talk about, Bermuda's very huge Christian society, but sometimes people say, well, just pray about it. Prayer is really important. That's part of meditation and mindfulness and all those different things as well, and being present. But there are things within that you can also do. There is prayer, but there's also just being active and kind of doing things that God would want you to do. Trying to think of other misconceptions. I think those are kind of some of the main ones of that. It's just a weakness. As you guys have also stated, as far as being quote unquote crazy, that's not it at all. It's not even close to being it. Not everybody deals with sadness to some extent, but it's just that level of severity that becomes more of the concern. How long does it last? And are you doing anything to attempt to change it?
And what happens if depression goes untreated?
Yeah, so leaving depression untreated can lead to long-term effects. So there's a hormone called cortisol that it can kind of build up in your body. It's a stress hormone. And as that builds up in your body, it can become chronic. And so during times that, let's say, you're not even necessarily feeling sad, or something hasn't necessarily quote unquote triggered you, and you may still feel really low. You may have to deal with that for long term. That can be really difficult to deal with. But also you got to look at your relationships as well. So when it bleeds into your relationships and it kind of shows up in different ways, and when you've been dealing with it for a long time, sometimes it will show up in other areas of your life. Again, where you're like, okay, well, I was sad about this, or I was struggling with this. This trauma affected me in this aspect of my life. But I'm finding that I'm yelling at my kids, or I'm finding that I'm very, whatever it might be. When you don't deal with that, it just kind of spreads to other areas. And you can get to the root of it, which is one of the beauties of doing therapy, which is one of the beauties of doing mindfulness and things like that, is being present with yourself and saying, okay, where did this come from? I can deal with it, and I can cause, a long-term change. Your mind doesn't have to stay like that. There is something called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity in and of itself is identifying that the brain has the ability to change. So when our brain is kind of stuck in these negative thinking, then it kind of responds in a negative way. But when you start doing therapy, when you start going out in nature, working out, our brain is responding to these negative things in different ways, and we have the ability to actually change that long term.
Let's go to the audience. I'm going to get through as many questions and comments as possible because you all do have a lot. Mark Arthur C. Phillips is asking, do you believe your family dynamic plays a great role on how an individual handles depression?
Most definitely. Yeah. So that goes back to, the biological, psychological, social, that social aspect. Yes. So how we're raised. Somebody else brought up, and I can't even say it properly, generational trauma. It's very, very true. So it's not placing the blame necessarily on any individual. It is identifying that cycle or that somebody may have an issue within your family and they don't know how to deal with it. Looking at yourself is so important. And so that self may be, your parent might need to look at themselves and they may struggle with it. But being able to identify, yes, that things can come from the family. It's not that they put it on you, but your body, the way in which you as an individual may respond to it one way, your siblings may respond to it a different way. But being able to say, yes, this is part of my family history. Yes, this may be a genetic thing as well, that my family has dealt with. So where is this coming from? And spending some time with that will be very important.
All right. Ebony Susan's asking, can you suggest an exercise that families can do together to help address and combat depression? I found our young ones are feeling it just as intensely as us in recent times.
Okay. Hey, that's a really good question, Ebony. The reason I say it's a really good question, especially because it sounds like you have young children. One of the best things you can do, and yes, exercise is really good, play with your kids. I mean, just full out play with them. Go and enjoy. So what that does is that it's not just about taking their mind off it or distracting them or anything like that, is that it does help to increase, their endorphins and like, hey, but it also helps them to realize mommy and daddy think I'm special. They're spending time with me, like I'm valuable. So things along those lines. And then within that context, that space of play, sometimes they'll also be more open to talking to you about what's going on in their lives. And so that's a great way to do it. I mean, there's no one exercise. I mean, you could go swimming or, a lot of different things. Find out what they like to do and then do it with them. That'd be my best suggestion.
All right. Rashida Godwin's comment says, I think not being in alignment with our true selves causes depression. I think it's our spiritual self that's sick and tired of putting on the mask and don't take any medication. Any thoughts on this?
I won't say, so the very last statement, as far as don't take any medication, I don't prescribe medication. So that's not something that I do. So I'm not a big medicine person. However, I do know, and I have seen medicine to be beneficial because especially when you're in a deep state of depression, when you're in a severe state of depression, you need to be able to see through that cloud. And when it's deep enough, if you are seriously considering suicide or something along those lines, please don't ever tell anybody not to take something that might benefit them. At the same time, they were saying about the self. Most definitely. Being able to look at yourself, see the beauty of yourself, spiritually being able to identify, hey, there's something kind of going on inside of me. These negative cognitions. And what I mean by that, sometimes somebody might say, I'm not good enough, or I'm not perfect enough, or nobody that I talk to is really safe. And so what am I going to do with these thoughts and feelings? So what is kind of going on in there? Spend some time with that. You may not need medication, but I wouldn't want to tell somebody don't take it because it may be the very thing that helps them to kind of see their way clearly to what they truly do need and the truth about their lives.
Raj Tribe says, indeed, depression treatment has to be holistic. Mind, body, soul are affected. Mind, body, soul equally need the attention in order to restore and maintain. Maintenance is vital. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, consistency is going to be very important. So part of the thing that I used to do crisis counseling, and so I've dealt with children and adults dealing with that. And one of the things that I dealt with as far as being on the phone and having people to call in, they were like, I did this type of coping skill and I did this type of medication and it didn't work. And they were probably right. In the essence, it didn't work. But as far as kind of maintaining that, like, hey, you may need to continue doing that. You may need to continue that coping skill. You may need to continue that mindfulness, getting out, whatever it is or it might be. But when you stop and all those negative thoughts flood back in, it's like it weighs 10 times more than the positive thoughts that you started working on, you know? So again, going back to that neuroplasticity, you can change it, but you have to kind of continuously be working at that in order to change your way of thinking and this belief mindset or this negative mindset that you have started to internalize.
I feel like there's something you keep saying that's sticking with me is like this negative mindset. Like I'm always talking about, we have to have a cultural shift in mindset, and it's sticking with me because we have a tendency, oh, you're so stupid, Jamel, and just simple things like that create, you know, other things in our heads. But real quickly, and I spoke about this earlier, but from your perspective and expertise, why might people in 2023 still not seek help?
Yeah, a lot of that, unfortunately, that stereotypical thought process is there. Thought process being, hey, is there something wrong with me? You know, is there like, I'm afraid to kind of seek help. Sometimes people may see the idea of going to seek help as, if you go and do that, then what about the other people in my family? So the lady talked about, you know, it coming from the family. Not seeking help. Well, hey, look, my husband is doing X, Y, Z. So does that mean if I go and seek help, that I'm the problem? Well, no. But it's kind of changing that thought process, allowing people to kind of get help, realizing that if you go to get help, you're not going to lose your job. Okay. Some people are afraid of that. And I will say that for me as a therapist, and even being a remote therapist, that's one of the hopes that I wanted to benefit people if they are afraid. I don't want people to be afraid. I don't want them to have the stereotype in their mind of, hey, if I walk into this therapist's office, that people are going to see me in a bad way. But unfortunately, that is people's truths. So if they do believe that, I'm glad that I am a resource, that being long distance, hey, I can talk to LaVonne, whatever, you know. But losing that stigma within themselves is going to be really important. But a lot of people, unfortunately, still hold on to that. You talk about Black people in general, the mentality that we have, there's a level of fear. A lot of my clients that come to me who are Black, they come in and they're like, I wanted to talk to you because I was afraid that when I talked to somebody else, they were going to think that I was just an angry person. Okay, so that's another part of like, hey, there's a stigma that maybe therapists are going to see me through. And sometimes, unfortunately, that has been people's experience, that it has been negative. So it's working through that and finding what truly works for you at the end of the day.
Folks, I understand we have a lot of questions keep coming in, but we have to wrap it up. But I'm just going to go with one more question from our website. Cameron Johnson says, once you deal with depression, how should you go about life with the thought that you might go back to those dark times?
Okay. And I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time? So once you deal with depression, how do you go?
How should you go about life with the thought that you might go back to the dark times?
Okay. It's a very deep question. All right. The thought that you might go back into dark times. Well, one of the biggest things I think that's going to be important with that is having these connections with others as far as your support network and finding people that are going to kind of help you through that. It may be true that those dark times do come back, and that's very scary. But identifying that our bodies are constantly changing. So it's kind of like, let's say, kind of going up in an airplane. Okay, you go up in an airplane and you initially have this turbulence, and your belief is it's never going to stop. Okay, it's never going to stop. It's never going to go away. I hate this. I hate this. And then once you break through that cloud, though, there's the blue skies. Okay, so when you realize that, hey, this is not long term. Our bodies are, there's a statement of our bodies are in a constant state of flux. It's up and down. We're constantly changing. Realize this in the world. When you have a storm, it changes. It's not always there. When you go through turbulence, it's not always there. So that darkness that you see or that you've experienced, it is real, but it will not always be there. So constantly look towards seeking hope and help for your life, and hopefully surround yourself with people that are going to support you in thinking and identifying yourself in a much better way than what you may have experienced.
This has been an awesome conversation, but I'm gonna ask you live on air, put you on the spot. Can you come back soon, and there's so much more to discuss.
Most definitely. Yeah, just let me know.
Perfect.
I'll be here.
And before you go, just let the audience know how they can get in touch with you if they want to speak with you, your services or whatnot.
Sure, yeah. So as far as speaking with me directly, I do have a website. It's called Even Me Counseling. So that's EvenMeCounseling. And I only spell that because the British way is with 2 L's, American way is with 1 L. So evenmecounseling.com. If you're wanting to schedule an appointment, you can also go to 295-7766. That is a direct number that you can call locally if you wanted to. If you want to just reach out to me, even in the States, I'm on WhatsApp, 615-440-9952. But I'll be more than happy to talk with you guys.
Please stay backstage. Chat to you after the show. Thank you so much, LaVonne Johnson. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, folks, if you appreciated that conversation, please give her a thumbs up, a love, a like. They are showing her the love today. Please share this conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Send it in your WhatsApp groups. This was such an amazing conversation. We could have went on for hours. Raj, I'm sorry. I know you probably had so much more to say and talk, but we only yeah. And thank you, Raj. This was Raj's first show where he pretty much produced the entire show, folks. He did everything. So thank you, my brother.
You're most welcome.
To you, take over and do your thing. I'm putting you on the spot again. We're going to take our final break and come back, wrap it up, Daily Play, and our final thoughts on the discussion and conversation with Mr. Stick with us.
Ordering from ER Fisheries has just gotten simpler. With just a few clicks of a button, you can place an order for next-day delivery or same-day pickup. Our ever-expanding list of offerings now include grocery pantry items, specialty meats, and bread and dairy items. We know things have been hard, and we're here to make planning for your next meal or party easy. Whether you're a vegetarian or a meat eater, we have what you're looking for. And best of all, it can be delivered to your door in 24 hours or less. Go to www.erfisheries.bm and check out our wide range of seafood, beef, lamb, pork, poultry, fruits, vegetables, and plant-based products, all available at reasonable prices. That's www.erfisheries.bm.
Right. Thanks again to LaVonne Johnson for the conversation today. Again, folks, if you appreciated that conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues, even someone, maybe your neighbor who you believe can benefit from this conversation. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medical House, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we can have these conversations on a daily basis. It's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. Raj, are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be.
Oh, he's ready. Today is music. All right. It's music. The easiest question Rajay will probably get on this show.
Right.
Why would Nelly say, take your clothes off?
Because it's getting hot in there. Dang. All right. Okay, we did it, everybody. We did it.
Was the hint earlier on about hot?
That's what they did, because they played this song over and over, right?
That's my debut. Everyone was saying they just keep playing the same song over and over and over. And yeah, that was, I tell you, it's the easiest question you'll get.
All right.
Yeah, but
we did it.
Let's wrap it up. We had a full out discussion on depression, from the discussion with the audience to our guest today, LaVonne Johnson. Take us away, Raj. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, she made this really, really great point about cortisol, because I know what triggers my depression, because it doesn't go away, right? So I know what it feels like when it's coming up in my body, when my behavior starts to change, when my thoughts go weird. I know what that's like. But for me, what triggers it is stress. When I'm under like legitimate stress for a prolonged period of time, I'm gonna get triggered. So, and then somebody else asked this really good question about when you feel yourself slipping back, what do? You become your greatest. You need to have a support system, which is something I'm still working on. But you have to be your biggest advocate. You have to be your superhero. No one in this world can look out for you better than you. So that would be my thing. Take yourself seriously. Take your health seriously. Take your internal self seriously. And then you also like this, and then I'm gonna shut up. This whole thing about your internal voice. My internal voice, a part of my healing was changing how I speak to myself. My internal voice was so mean. I was so mean to myself. I used to call myself names, hold myself to ridiculous standards that I wouldn't hold anybody else to. But when I talk to myself now, I talk to myself like I'm talking to my kids because I understand I'm talking to my inner child. I say, Rajay, it's okay. Be patient with yourself. Everything's fine. And I say, my love. I say, my love. It's okay. Calm down, you know? So you are precious. You are your biggest advocate. There are so many things in this world trying to convince you differently about yourself so that I think you stay small, so you serve this bigger systemic thing. But you're not small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion. You are a miraculous being, and you deserve to experience that on a daily basis.
And I'm just going to piggyback on that. You know, I've had people say, "Oh, stop saying that about yourself." And I'm like, you know, it's that motivation. You think it's motivation, but is it really, right? But I want to touch on something else that Ms. Johnson said about surrounding yourself with people, right? Those who know me know I'm very intentional about who I surround myself with professionally and personally. And I'm serious when I say, you know, I surround myself with people who will hold me accountable, who challenge me to do better. I put up something the other day. I don't mind compliments, but they don't do what they do for most others, because I want people to make sure that they're challenging me to be better. They're, you know, encouraging me to self-reflect, right? And, you know, they're really holding me accountable, holding me to account. But also, if I need help, they're the ones that will guide me and help me. I think you mentioned earlier about masculinity, right? It's almost shameful for men to be vulnerable, right? I think we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, Raj. We have to understand that men have feelings too. And
it's a matter of life or death.
Yeah, it really is. And so these conversations for me as a Black man, you know, when I see, you think of what's going on in Bermuda, from the murders, the gun violence, to the road fatalities, right? Black men are reeling in the country. And I ask myself, you know, when we lose people and we go to these funerals and we're, you know, going to a wake and we're drinking up, how many of us are speaking to someone about how this impacts us? When the Belco bills rise and it's tougher, it becomes just, you know, a bit tougher to provide for your loved ones. How many of us are speaking to someone about this? When the landlord comes and says, look, you know, I have to get you out of the apartment, how many of us are really speaking to people about this? There's so much that leads to it. And I think we all have to be honest with ourselves if we want to figure out what the solutions are. Raj, you've got some daily inspiration to send us on?
I do. I have two, actually. So this book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, I mean, Rashida Godwin was talking about the intergenerational experience of trauma and how we've learned these behaviors in the past during enslavement that are carrying on to the present. Beautiful book. Just wanted to bring that up.
Who's the author? Please send it to me. I'll order that today.
I shall. It's Jamel, it's gonna, just that one example of just like violence towards children and how that's carried on. The entire book is full of it. Yeah, it's amazing. But our daily inspiration today, from again, another one from Bell Hooks: rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion and community.
Oh, there we go. And that daily inspiration brought to you by ER Fisheries. But it's an act of community. Raj, they love you, man. They love you, Miss LaVonne. They love you, Raj. Sherilyn Johnson, Claudette Fleming. We appreciate you. Great feedback, says Kathy Rogers. Folks, please don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Adequals, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. We're ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. He's Roger Denbrook. I'm Jamal Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are out.